How it all started. I still remember as a child when my dragon used to be with me and I didn't know yet. I already knew there was a very familiar lady with dark hairs in my dream, but this, I didn't know. One morning, I woke up and heard this very intense breathing connected to mine. It followed my breath very well, synced at perfection and all, but I had no idea it was a dragon, and I asked myself if it was a dragon that day, but didn't make much of it because I was a child. I used to be obsessed with dragons, to write stuff about dragons, even wrote this novel. Very good book. Just kidding, I never finished it. I also used to buy a lot of random dragon stuff, especially Asian dragons. I couldn't live without it and didn't know why. Asian dragons always resonated with me somehow, even if they weren't my fav subjects or animal back then. It was only years later, way after my wolf awakening, that I saw for the first time. I was napping at my mom's before work. I was 19 years old. I'm now 32. So you can see this is not a fucking phase. I tried to do a power nap that day when I was at my mom's, just before work, which I should do again, but anyway. I was doing this power nap and fell really quickly into a state of meditation, and I had this vision. First, I put my hand on a glass wall and my wolf put her paw on my hand on the other side and grabbed me in her dimension, which I now suspect to have been on Nocturian itself, and she brought me somewhere. It was snowy and kind of dark with pine trees all around, and she looked excited and happy. Could barely contain herself, but she stayed serious and showed me. She pointed at a rock in the distance, and here she was. So magnificent. A beautiful ancient white, translucid Asian dragons with golden energy emanating from her body. It was extraordinary to watch. Beautiful Asian dragon with a more or less candid face and the body of this, with small scales and viewer, and her deep red eyes glowing like an albino. She had a rainbow reflections under her body too, and whiskers and soft fur on her head and nose. She talked to me in a whispery wind language that I could hear and understand. She told me she was a dragon guardian, especially a guardian. She did insist on that word, which I had no idea of what it was back in the day. She watched over me. She was there all the time to grow with me and all. The rest is a bit blurry. I had to work a lot and had problem adjusting to my wolf and her needs back then, so sadly the dragon was kind of tossed aside by accident for a while, and I still regret it, but she was there and I thought her energy was too intense like a child, but it didn't help at all, and caused Ali to have to create a chain to contain her somehow for just a while, because I was struggling with my wolf back then and it was hard enough for the time. I feel bad, but I didn't know, okay? I was a newbie. For years I thought she was gone and separated from me. As Likena left me behind and told me hurtful stuff, she also told me she separated me from my dragon because she was bad or something, and I believed her like a stupid fuck, and I pushed her away by believing it. But she wasn't bad. My dragon was just young and inexperienced, and she felt like she wasn't worth it or ready at all, and took her distance, or at least I thought. I was confused, but trusted Likena before all the bullshit she gave me happened. So for years I thought she was just gone, but she was separated by a dimension wall and had problems connecting with me again. She wanted to come back when she was ready. Turns out I wasn't when she came back. So she tried to get my attention as much as she could, even scaring me so many times in the way of trying to achieve this. She became scary and threatening and angry, But I couldn't know, okay? She was lost, scared, and frustrated and sad, and I thought this was a creepy spirit with an alien energy trying to stalk me like it always was. And when I was going outside, even back then when I had my other apartments, she follows me everywhere. And trees around me, they moved all the time on their own, and there was no wind around and just the trees around me. And I thought it was me doing this, being sensible to their energy or being some kind of fucked up witch. But no, it was my dragon all along, trying to get my attention. Even saved my life and protected me so many times. She protected me. She warned me from dangers. A new home, a new start, but still stuck. Then I moved to my new house, my final destination. I moved a lot over the years, and that angry spirit was following me everywhere. And things got messy. My house was haunted to start with, but I always lived in haunted places, and this was different. Way more intense. Oh boy, she went mad and impatient. I understand now why, but back then I did not know. I always felt like something was off about the backyard. Each time I was going outside, just like my apartment back at Levy, there was this very threatening energy outside in my backyard. Now that I think of it, maybe it was an angry dragon god trying to help me by waking me the fuck up, you know what I mean? But I don't know yet. Dragon's god exist and help us stay on the dragon path, keeping our dragon connected to us by all means, helping in making sure we stay on the right track, just like caring parents. But oh boy, this one was so desperate to get my attention. I could barely go outside for a whole year. I was intimidated and scared by that angry spirit. I knew nothing about back then, like not about the dragons anyway. I didn't think it was my dragon and all. Like, I thought my dragon was gone, you know? And it made me sad, of course, but what could I do about it? Back then, I wasn't a witch or anything, or so I thought. I knew there was something huge at my house, and I couldn't do a shit about it. That entity was angry, lost, confused, and tried to get my attention at all cost. And it was scary. Many scary things happened. Of course, my house is old and haunted, since I live in a far away place in the countryside, surrounded by ancient nature, but still, it was scary, even for someone like me, who was used to paranormal stuff happening all the time. I used to live in a haunted house, my parents' house. I saw things I couldn't explain, like ghosts and UFOs. I shapeshifted into a wolf and saw shit people wouldn't even believe in their whole life. I honestly don't give a fuck if no one believes me. I don't really need people's validation, and these experiences are for me very real. So I thought, after years of hiding it, maybe this could help somebody who needs to hear this. Anyway, so this huge entity stalking me all the time, sometimes in objects, reflections, light, anything I could see, that same pair of eyes everywhere. It reminded me, small cat eyes, plugged on a huge snake-like head, but couldn't see more. That entity was camouflaging. It was following me whenever I went, wherever I went, even at my old apartments. And here, this is her new home. But this new home already had a magical field and gates. I live in a place where the frontiers of physical reality and astral dimensions are very close to each other's, often opening portals for magical or spiritual entities to come in and out in this physical reality. So it's a very sacred place on Earth, one of the sacred places. There's tons of them, and apparently I inherited of one of these. I mean, at least my land. It doesn't say that I'm the owner of the land, just I live on it. I just live on it. Lucky me. It got me scared to the bones, and I will now tell you why. A giant in my backyard? Later, I don't know, maybe months, or Weeks later, the front door randomly opened angrily, and my cat jumped in front of the door, ready to kill anything coming in. My dog barked and I jumped from my sofa and ran. You see, the door was wide open and there was a lot of wind that day, but this was different. It was violent. Could have been the wind, but I did feel a very angry presence, so I closed the door real quick and blessed my house with protective energy and guardian angels. I was raised a Christian, but these things still... I don't really like religions in general, but I do have the belief that there's many gods and stuff out there, so I do like a few of them, but I'm not religious at all. There's a difference between believing and worshipping or practicing anything. One day, so I protected this house with Christian stuff. You know, I didn't know what to do, so I used white sage and called my guardian angels to protect the vicinities of my house, not letting bad spirits getting in. So one day, a few months later, after I moved in this house, I was doing the dishes. It was the evening and I was alone home. Then I heard a loud and quiet boom over my head. A boom, big ass boom, as if something fell on the roof, like something big. I could feel the house shaking when it happened. It was during summer, so just the end of summer or start of fall, anyway, in that kind of time. No snow in my memory. It was so loud, it felt like a giant falling down on my house. I had a clear and scary feeling it was an actual giant. And it was like, I don't know, walking on my house or did something weird. So I just did something stupid, just like any horror movie. I went outside, but I was careful and all, so I was fine. And this was not a dangerous place to live. It was countryside. It's countryside and it's safe usually. So I went outside and I saw nothing. Literally, it was. I thought it was a ladder because I have a ladder on the roof, and I thought maybe it rolled down because it was kind of bent. But no, it wasn't anything. There was nothing to see. I was flabbergasted and lost. I just, okay, I just lived with it. I had no explanation and just went on. I had giant, the word giant in mind, and reptilian energy was felt. I'm a wolf and I'm psychic. I can feel the energy pretty well and identify stuff, but I'm not an expert either. But some days after, holy shit, that's when it happened. I saw it. I saw something. I was outside with the dog at night in my backyard, with a pine forest almost touching my house, because I have this wood with pine trees just on the left side of my house. Right side, sorry. I heard a random book. What the fuck? I heard a random book again, very similar to the first one. Okay, autocorrection. I heard a random boom again, very similar to the first one, but quicker and less loud. I was outside, of course. I turned my head back quickly and I saw it. I fucking saw it. A branch, big one, with the shape of an arm, banged on my roof, and what looked like a tree ant arm from the Lord of the Ring, this kind of crap or some shit, man. I don't know. Just went back into the wood like a humanoid tree thingy. I don't know. There was many branches and they were all bent and moving, and it happened so fast. My mind went all confused and fucked up. Like, I couldn't process what I just saw. I just ignored what happened. What more could I have done? If it was dangerous, I would have, the best way to react is pretending you didn't see anything. It's still a blur in my mind. Now you can imagine why I was terrified of going outside. Imagine each time I go outside, I'm like, oh, this giant tree is gonna crush me. Oh, this giant tree is gonna crush me. I'm gonna die. I was terrified. But I don't like to give up, and I love paranormal stuff anyway, so I just accepted it. But each time I went outside, each fucking day of the year, almost every day, there was always the same pattern coming back all the time. The way it went was it started silent, an odd silence with a bit of wind. Nothing abnormal, but the sensation of being stalked by something huge was there when it was happening. Like, all the time. Even at night sometimes. And then this odd wind gush or hisses, weird windy hisses. Then the wind chimes, I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce that word, would start to randomly play. The wind chimes would just play, like, without winds or anything. Like, even the trees around my house, nothing around farther in the neighborhood, nothing, no wind. But just in the trees near my house, it was always very, very, a lot of movements in the tree branches and stuff. So it was very fishy. So if it was scary. And sometimes my dog would come back at the house and bark, very scared and stuff, like spooked for nothing all of a sudden. So I thought there was something abnormal. I wondered what, and then I started to investigate it with my pack. A giant snake, what the fuck? The dragon scared my dog many times, scared me to get my attention and all, so I started wondering what it was and how to calm it down. One day, I had a meltdown and raged and stood my ground to it, and started to understand that the creature did not want to harm me. Even though I suspected to have thrown ice at me in the past, but I guess now it was just to get my attention, not to hurt me. So I gave it attention, so much attention. We both stood our ground, but we had to argue. But eventually it calmed down, and I started talking to it about how I hated humans too, and how the world was, and how I couldn't identify as them, and everything going on. That I was on the creature's side, not its enemy. Strange things happened afterward. My friend told me it could be a nature spirit. It was during the summer, end of the summer, and I was tired of getting no spoken answers, just angry wind and stuff. So I talked to it about my pack. I talked about it to my pack, and we started investigating together. The dragon smelled like snake and pines combined, very nice snakish smell. I know how snakes smell because I own one myself in the third dimension, and I know she smells very similar. I started to think, maybe this is a snake spirit that lived in the trees and that I was on her territory, a nature spirit, like my friend suggested. But this was odd, as the snake was so big, I could see the bushes and trees move. The fucking trees were moving. When she moved, and it felt odd. It was, I think, around fall. I decided to try something I didn't tell anyone about, except my boyfriend. It's just a one time in your life, And I wanted to see if I could communicate with the nature spirit snake better. I mean, it was just a coincidence. I did not do it for that. But there was the occasion. And strangely, I did. I thought it was in my mind at first because, hallucinations, but the spirit showed me the direction to follow, and I followed. And she told me, look at your right. Look at your fucking right. And there stood a bird. It was lonely, quiet, and hiding under a fence, and alone. It was looking at me straight in the eyes, not afraid for a second. It was so weird. She said it was her. That she was a shapeshifter spirit, but mainly a snake-like spirit giant. She was protecting this area now, and it was her home. She wanted me to help into creating an environment for the birds and the creatures there, and to respect them. She hated me at first, but I had to kill both a wasp and a queen bee to take some vegetation off, since our house was abandoned for a few years since the last owner's death. So I did help to compensate afterward, made some I fed animals and did stuff, so it made her happy. I even had the visit of a water snake. It came often to my house for some unknown reason. Now I know dragon presence is often symbolized by the apparition of animals such as snakes and dragonflies, which manifested a lot where I was. Also the butterflies. Where I live is a very special, mysterious and magical place. The nature spirit's gift. My boyfriend used to have that greenhouse in the backyard, and one day I came and there was a surprise. A surprise. The water snake felt safe enough to lay down eggs in the greenhouse, and they hatched. It might come back next year, so I should tell my boyfriend to build his greenhouse back. It was a mysterious end of summer. It wasn't exactly fall, but more like the end of summer, whatever. Anyway, it almost felt like a reward. You see, these eggs there, hatched and all, felt magical, so for a while things calmed down and fall ended. I started to go outside more and more often. Of course, I did not take any substances or whatever. I started to go outside more and more often, talking to it on the way. She came to accept my presence and calm down. I was mainly on her territory and needed quiet at night to hunt and such. I was doing a lot of noise with my dog and all, and I thought it was because she hated silence, but she wanted my attention. Anyway, we talked and talked, and I earned her trust with time, surrounded by dragons. I'm surrounded by dragons. Even most of my friends are reincarnated dragon spirits. So we investigated together from afar, and one day I decided to go outside with a camera to listen to ghost replies, because I wanted to know what the spirit was and why it was still trying to get my attention. And I heard a few things, like go to hell and yes, after asking if it was a giant. I guess it was angry because I didn't ask permission first, because afterward didn't get so much replies in English, more like in wind language. But I think there was a human spirit there that day, an angry one too. This place is a magnet for entities, some kind of gay place where a lot of spirits enter this realm and go. So I felt this was a giant, yes, some sort of, but the word dragon kept knocking in my head. And I went to the wood to talk to it one day, and it told me her name, showed me her shape and color, and I thought, oh, this is not the dragon I used to have. But then somehow I felt it hard in my heart that it was my dragon that felt lost and distressed and wanted attention back. Turned into anger and frustration. That dragon had to go down dark roads to stay in touch with me. Now that she was stuck between two dimensions, she was so hard to reach. She had to reach me in the third dimension, in the nature. She could use it to get my attention, and she went dark path to stay in touch, losing herself a lot along the way, becoming wild and everything, but she never gave up. Now I know all that because we talked a lot. It was my dragon all along. One day I realized it was my dragon. And I called her back to bond with me again, and she did. Oh, she did. I could see her in visions, and the things I saw, everything was matching. That's when I clicked, and once we reunited, I felt the dragon breath in me. She wouldn't shut up, and I loved it. She told me she was young and inexperienced and had to go her own way to learn and grow as a dragon, as much as I was growing up as a wolf. That we weren't ready to actually work together because we were too youngly incarnated and needed to make our path back to ourselves. She grew a lot since then, and her shape and energy changed so many times, but I saw the Chinese dragon outside this very winter. Going from roof to roof. That's how I knew it was her. Like, it was an Asian dragon, and it really looked like her, except with the wings. And I saw a Chinese dragon that winter. You know, when there's a lot of snow in Canada, and there was this roof from the stables, and there was snow on it, and the wind gushed gushed the snow off, and it's shaped like a dragon, golden dragon. It doesn't happen, you know. And anyway, she grew a lot since then, and her shape and energy changed. Dragons can change colors, names, etc., shape, size. They're shapeshifters. They can even possess objects and animals and elements. And that dragon thing was flying and jumping on roofs. Anyway, it was crazy. It was crazy to watch, and I was amazed. But then again, my stupid human brain telling me, "Oh, maybe this is not real. Maybe it's in your mind," because the human brain is programmed that way, you know. But it was made a distinct shape of an Asian dragon, and I could see the golden light emanating from it. That dragon is in me, is with me since my past life, and maybe even before that. I just don't remember all of my past lives, to be honest. Remember, dragons are sneaky, shy, and careful. They will take many disguises, colors, shapeshift into elements, animals, and other things to trick your eyes, trick your mind, to lead you off the way, so you stop having the clarity of the mind telling you it's a dragon and nothing else. But when you're in a dragon bath, you know it's a dragon. You will feel it inside your bones. That's how I knew. As you know, things happen too. So that is how my dragon path started. How everything came into place. The story of my elf and everything. Thank you to have listened. The next video is gonna be about what to expect when you start the draconic path, or the dragon path, just your name. And how I did in my own experience of it. Have a wonderful day, my friends, my brothers and sisters. Sorry.